Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Phillips with the Reserve Officers Association, and it's a real privilege to be here with Mr. Tom Shull. Tom is the CEO and Director of the Army and Air Force Exchange System, which most of us have at one point or another and perhaps currently use for a lot of the things that we can't get by without: toothpaste, razor blades, uniforms, you name it. So Tom, thanks for being here from Dallas in the great city of Washington, where you can go 8 miles in any direction and still be at the scene of the crime.
Right.
It's good to have you with us at
It's an honor
ROA.
to be here. Thank you.
And we want to talk to you a little bit about the operation that you run and the great service it provides our men and women of the military. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your path. You went in the Army in 1969, very highly ranked out of West Point, expert infantryman badge. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, I was an Army brat, and my father spent over 30 years in the Army, over 40 months in combat, so it was pretty clear that my brother and I were going to go in the Army, so we both did, and he preceded me at West Point, 3 years ahead of me. And my wife's family, too, is all in. We have over 300 years of service. Wow. Combined, the two families, so we're very proud of service. So for me, it's been an honor to come back to serve and be back with my military family and my Army and Air Force family. So it's been a great opportunity to be able to come back.
Well, you served in the Army. You left a little bit before you were 20. I guess that was the Army in those days. They were trying to get a little light on their numbers. But then you went into retailing.
I did. Actually, both sides of the family had retail businesses when I was growing up, and so it was kind of a natural for me to get involved in both retail and also consumer packaged goods. So those were the two areas that I focused on, and then over the course of 30 years in retail and consumer packaged goods, I really focused a lot on transformation and restructuring. And when I was initially approached to be CEO at the Exchange, it was because of that background of the need to think about restructuring. We were about to downsize the Army, and so to have some expertise from the commercial side made a lot of sense.
Essentially, you are the first civilian person, certainly with retail experience, to run the Exchange. Isn't that correct?
I am, and but very proud of that. And as I said, it's such an honor every day. You know, when I love to get out in the field and meet the troops and meet my teammates, acknowledge them for what they do every day. So it's really is at this stage of my life one of those things where a real blessing to be able to come back and serve again.
Well, I don't mean to make too much of this, but when you say you were in retail for 30 years, there were some names there that people would recognize: Barney's, Macy's. You led some turnarounds. You increased profitability to a dramatic extent in some of these operations. I'm very proud of the fact that each company was better when I left than it was when I arrived, and in every instance, particularly companies that were either in bankruptcy or thinking of possibly going into bankruptcy, being able to turn them around. Brought them out.
Either get them out or ensure they didn't go into bankruptcy, which was for me so important personally, because our family business did go into bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. My grandmother had run this conglomerate in Colorado for almost 50 years and turned the keys over to my uncle, and he unfortunately sold it to a hedge fund and ended up being liquidated. And so that, what happened to my family business, and most importantly, what had happened to all those employees, they lost their jobs, they lost their pensions. So for me, it's very personal to be able to restore companies to health and also provide a path for those who are displaced by it. We've had to eliminate 7,500 positions, but we've done it through soft landings. Mm-hmm. Every single person affected has made a choice of their own. It's all been voluntary. Now we've had early retirements, but all by choice. And so it's been a very difficult transformation, but I can tell you the team is just amazing that I work with, and they're so committed to making sure the benefit is preserved first. It's not about them, it's about who we serve. Mm-hmm. So being part of that culture too has been really inspirational, and I'm just so amazed every day at the dedication of my teammates and their dedication to those who serve. 85% of us have connections to the military. 45% of my teammates are spouses, veterans, or dependents. So we are really integral to the community, providing
Absolutely.
jobs for particularly younger airmen and soldiers who need that dual income.
Well, in my nearly 40 years in the military before I retired, I saw a great change in how AAFES, the PX we called it, had changed over time. So what are some of the things that you've done to transform AAFES?
Well, we really looked hard at the customer experience to begin with, focused a lot on intensifying our national brands,
Mhm.
example brands like Michael Kors and Disney and Ashley Furniture. Under Armour, for example, is one of our centerpieces of the B-Fit category, Nike. So across every category, we look toward national brands to be the centerpiece of the customer experience. And we've done the same in food. We've added a lot of name brand foods like Chipotle and Boston Market. We were focused more on the hamburger category and some less B-Fit offerings, and we're really focused on B-Fit now. Subway is a big offering that we have, just across the board. Very exciting new offerings there. We have first-run movies in CONUS for the first time ever. We never had first-run
No, we
movies.
didn't. We had maybe second or third run
Right.
movies.
Well, I remember coming back from Italy in the 50s, and this is actually early 60s actually, and we went to Fort Sam Houston,
Uh-huh.
and I remember as a young dependent, my dad at that point was a colonel, and I said, "Dad, this is ridiculous. We're coming back from overseas, having been away from home for 5 years, and we're getting movies that have been out 6 weeks. When we were in Europe, we got movies right away."
Absolutely.
And so now what's so great is we talked to the studios, and Disney was first to provide first-run movies in CONUS, but more importantly, we do all premieres of hero movies in combat. So every single Sony, Fox, certainly Disney, all the studios support premieres of hero movies in combat. So we're so thrilled about that. Think about what Bob Hope did. We're doing it virtually.
Well, you bring a piece of America to the troops,
Right.
which is the way I always saw the PX.
It is. We call it a taste of home.
Mhm.
And for not just the troops, but their family members. And my dad used to always say, as long as my family is taken care of, I'm all in for the Army. And so I take that to heart every day when I come to work, is understanding that resiliency and readiness, much of it is about taking care of the family members.
Absolutely.
And especially those in combat. We do provide all the needs of all services in combat. So at the tip of the spear, we now have mobile field exchanges in places like Poland and Kosovo, obviously Afghanistan and Iraq. We have more permanent, right now, more permanent facilities.
Mhm.
But just to give you an example, at 2 o'clock this morning,
Mhm.
an indirect round came in and hit our Warrior PX in Bagram
Today.
this morning. That may be why I'm a little tired right now, because we were working through all that, but imagine if that had occurred at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Would have been horrific
Casualties.
casualties. We've had casualties in the past, but they're all in. We have 4,700 of our associates have deployed.
Mhm.
4,700 have deployed into combat to be there, side by side, in harm's way. Now, in this instance, we had a lot of damage, facility damage, but
Mhm.
thankfully none of my
Okay.
teammates were hurt. We had no injuries. But this is an example of where
Oh,
what
yeah,
other
right there.
retailer would literally put their lives at risk. Or now we actually celebrate Veterans Day. We just offered the benefit for all veterans online. 18 million vets were welcomed home last Veterans Day.
Great benefit.
And we're so excited because it's, particularly for the reserves and National Guard, it's made a big difference because so many of them don't, as you mentioned, get to full
No.
retirement. And so this is a great benefit for life.
ROA was a
Keep
big
them
advocate of
connected.
that.
You were, ROA
Absolutely.
was hugely.
And that brought you another 17, 18 million potential customers,
Exactly.
which then provides MWR
Correct.
benefits for our military. Well, so the two buying institutions, if you will, that the person on post encounters are normally the PX and the commissary. So what's the difference between the PX and the commissary?
Well, commissary is designed to be a great benefit, by the way, but designed to provide low-cost groceries needs, particularly for so many young airmen and soldiers, and of course Marines and sailors. But the idea is to provide really low-cost groceries, and somewhere between 20 and 30% savings. It's not intended to make money.
And that's even with all the competing grocery stores off base, they can achieve those kinds of savings?
Well, the savings right now are in the range of the low 20s.
Mhm.
They were as high as 30%. There's a lot more competition than there
Right,
was.
right.
But still, it's a substantial savings. You think about the grocery bill every month, 20 to 30% savings.
Yeah,
If
that's
you buy
right.
carefully at the commissary, you
Right.
can achieve the full 30%. The point, though, is that it's designed to provide low-cost groceries. It is appropriated funds, so Congress appropriates the funds every year. We are a non-appropriated fund, so we
So they
generate.
don't make a profit?
They don't. We don't actually make a profit either. We make earnings that
Okay.
support the dividend. And the dividend supports child development centers, fitness centers. It supports a school lunch program. We provide over 2.6 million school lunches a year for our dependents overseas. So it's a big program we value, and certainly our patrons value. They save about $2 a meal versus what they would have to pay if it was contracted.
Yeah, that's great.
So those are some of the examples, and then military clothing at cost. But the core mission is the one in combat, in harm's way. That's the one that is most important.
So now you've been with AAFES since 2012.
6 years, right?
What do you see the future of AAFES?
Well, I think we are looking at, one of the big projects is what we call digital garrison or digital installation in the case of the Air Force. We're going to have an app which will connect service members at every installation to all the services, not just the exchange or AAFES, but also we hope, the commissary and MWR and services on the Air Force side. So the idea is to connect that the patron and certainly the National Guard and Reserve, critical, when they serve, they'll have their app, so that when they're on their weekends serving, they'll have the benefit of that application, and they can take full advantage of all those services, and then they'll have immediate understanding of what we provide at every touch point in their lives, whether it's barbershops or the food court or theater, the time for when we're showing movies. And
When you're showing first-run movies.
when we're showing first-run movies, exactly. No, but it's very, very exciting, this whole idea of making that customer experience just that much better and truly more competitive than anything that's out there. And we look at ourselves as a really important recruiting tool, I guess, to really encourage young Americans to serve. And if we have, if our benefits while they serve are strong, then they'll be that much more likely to,
Absolutely.
go in the service and stay in the service.
Quality of life.
It is.
Quality of life
All
and their
about
families,
quality of
too.
life, right.
Well, this is terrific. We look forward to continuing the conversation, but before we say adieu for the day, I'd like to ask if you have any words for those watching the podcast here, the video.
Well, I just want to thank all of you, particularly service members.
Well, sir, it's a real pleasure to talk to you again. We look forward to doing some shopping soon.
Great.
But thank you again for your leadership of AAFES and your own service in our Army.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.